Okay, so we're back in recording. It is now 9:08. We're out of executive session. Can I get a first to come out of an executive session?
I'll make a motion to come out of executive.
All right, Nikki's our first. Do I have a second?
Second.
Ryan's second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Okay, we're out of executive session. We're back to lot 74. We have a couple of different things to discuss. John, you go ahead and do the history on lot 74.
Okay, the prior administration purchased lot 74 in the Valley Views Meadows addition to Baltic in 2021, I believe. And the city council then determined to surplus the property, to declare it surplus, and to sell it by bid, competitive bids, sealed bids. So what the council did, and Mr. Freeberg drafted the documents, is prepare instructions to bidders, a notice of sale of surplus property by sealed bids, a bid form, and a proposed real estate purchase agreement that would be signed by the successful bidder. The bid form submitted by Woody Hauser from Beersford was dated July 2, 2021, and he offered to buy the property for $127,500. The city then entered into the purchase agreement that was attached to the bidding instructions. And the real estate purchase agreement provided for a closing on or before August 1 of 2021. And the purchase agreement was executed on the 6th day of July of 2021. The purchase agreement called for an earnest money down payment of $5,000. For reasons that Mr. Freeberg cannot recall, there were actually two separate checks that were paid to his trust account. One for Mr. Hauser on July 12, 2021 in the amount of $5,000, and a second check from statewide leasing in the amount of $2,500 dated July 28 of 2021. These amounts were deposited to Mr. Freeberg's law firm trust account. Mr. Hauser failed to close on the property, and he also failed to, obviously, since he didn't close on the property, he also failed to, within 60 days of closing, obtain a grading permit, and then within 6 months from the date of closing, obtain a building permit. If he would have closed and paid for the lot 74 and the amount of the purchase price, and then failed to do those subsequent two conditions, the city had the right to repurchase the property for the same amount. Now, so really the question of Mr. Hauser failing to get the grading permit and then within 6 months from closing get a building permit are really moot questions, because he did not close at all, which was to occur on or before August 1 of 2021. To my knowledge, he never provided any reasons for why he did not close. Mr. Freeberg sent me a letter on September 9 and enclosed a trust account check from his trust account payable to my trust account for $7,500 and stated that Mr. Hauser was totally in default in the purchase of the property. Did not recall why the deposit was greater than what was listed. So the question, I have really two requests, I guess, of the council. One is to authorize me to negotiate that check and deposit the $7,500 into my trust account. And then number two, I'll just tell you, I pointed out to the council, there is no provision for refundability of the earnest money. Furthermore, the property was tied up by Mr. Hauser for a period of time. And in fact, he's never communicated, to my knowledge, with anyone at City Hall or with Mr. Freeberg that I've seen in writing at least. And he's certainly not reached out to me and said, by the way, what do we do with that earnest money? My opinion is that it's non-refundable. And so I'm asking the council for a motion to authorize me to write to Mr. Hauser and explain the city's position on the non-refundability of the earnest money, and also to authorize me to deposit Mr. Freeberg's trust account check to my trust account.
Any questions? There's a lot of information. Good job, John.
Thank you.
Any discussion? Can we have a motion? We need two separate motions, or can we do one?
I think you can make one.
Okay. Can we have a single motion?
I'll make a motion for John to create a letter to send to Mr. Hauser and deposit the funds into his trust account as soon as possible.
All right, we have a first. Can we have a second?
I'll second.
Brian's going to second that. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, motion passes. Okay, so then the second item for Lot 74, it includes the Baltic Area Development Foundation discussion. Is there anyone on council that wants to address that? Or John, do you want to address that?
I think that's perfectly within the purview of the council.
Okay. Do you want to state it?
Well, as I understand, the council would like to have a meeting with the Baltic Area Development Foundation and do some future planning. So,
How does Monday at 5:30 sound?
Ryan?
Hold on a second.
They asked me when the meeting was. I'm like, I don't know, my brain is melting.
Third Monday. Yep.
Perfect.
Sounds good. All right.
We'll be there.
perfect.
Okay.
Meeting here. We'll meet down at the, well, usually be down at the Legion.
Yeah, whatever you want.
Just go with the Legion. 5 to 5:30, so 5:30. Yep.
Perfect. Okay, so that's that. And then now we're down to utility bill review, if I got that right?
Deb, can I ask a quick question, just clarify my own mind?
Mhm.
So since a prior council declared that surplus property, and it's been returned to the city because he defaulted, is that still considered surplus property? Or do you guys need to unsurplus that property?
The city is not currently in possession of that property because on April 20th of 2022, the previous administration quitclaim deeded the property in its entirety to the Baltic Area Development Foundation.
That was the missing piece, thank you.
Yep. Okay. Utility bill review. I have a feeling that this has Linda written all over it.
Good. Okay, they had this summer sewer rates that they put on that had previously been put on people's bills during the summertime. And it ended August 25th with the August 25th billing. So a lot of people are still watering and, putting lawns in and stuff. So they had the big high water bills and they were calling the city. What happened, our sewer rate was so low last month. And I made an executive decision and lowered their rates back to the summer rates because they were watering. But I think for next year, we should extend summer sewer rates till September 25th billing.
So a little bit of background on this. This is something that's been going on in Baltic for a very long time. Is during the watering season, I think you recall the meeting that we had last year when Brendan was gracious enough to try to talk about this, and not all of us were really kind of grasping around it. And Brendan has asked several times to reconsider the summer water rates because there's a discounted rates during the summer because people are watering their lawns. Except for Deb doesn't water her lawn, she waters her garden, I think is what you said. Yes. And so, so Brendan said that we should really consider either moving that section, either starting later and ending later, or adding a month to it because of the watering season and that kind of thing. And so, so that's something that you guys as council need to decide what you want to do. And so Linda's recommendation, because of the seasons and how they land, extending the summer water rates into September seems like a really customer-friendly step to take. When do they start? When do the summer water rates start?
May.
May 1st?
Takes the average of your first 4 months of water usage and calculates your sewer rate off of that, and then uses that pre-lawn watering season. starts in May, carries out. Generally, in Brendan's discussion, generally, you're not watering in May yet, because spring is still fairly soft.
Mhm.
So that was where his discussion kind of based from, was to, more people are watering in September than May.
So-
The 25th, with, you know, with the
Yeah.
billing cycle.
Mhm.
But I think it would have to be a resolution, so this is. you
Kind
know,
of like go from May
discussion.
25th to September 25th.
Yeah.
And then I recall there being something in the discussion that they take your quarterly rate and then that's what you pay the next quarter. So that's why quarters mattered. Is that right or not? Or,
The computer does all this.
so we don't have to do that anymore. Okay. So, so basically we need, if you guys support extending that to September, it's just a matter of writing a resolution, clarifying what the summer rates are
Right.
and putting those into effect. So, any questions about that?
So Linda, you said you made an executive decision and you took care of the people that called and complained. What about the rest of us?
I'm not too sure.
Squeaky wheel gets the grease.
Because I was still watering, and still watering my plants. I'm gonna water till our heart's out.
Yeah, and I told the people that, you know, it ends.
So that is a valid question.
but
Do
it
we
is
want to retroactively give everybody that summer rate for September?
kind of if they're water. If
I-
they're water.
I don't think that's a wormhole you want to go down. I would have done the executive choice and to refund the people anyways, just because most towns, I don't believe, even knew this in the first place, to be honest, from the research we did in years past. If I was to do it, what I would do is to redraw a resolution for next year to not extend it, but either do it a 5-month average to start the year, go through May, figure out your average then. So if we are watering, it's going to affect you a little bit more too in May, and then calculate it through September. If they got it, instead of just making it a 6-month long window, because I don't think May is really going to affect it too terribly much. But
So I do have a question about that because we're going to be undergoing some water evaluations, you know, and taking a look at usage and being able to also with the upcoming ARPA funds that we have to meet certain minimum requirements of things. How does the summer rate affect all of those loans or our, I don't want to say solvency or, you know, our ability to show what our consistent income is? Does any of that come into play when we're looking at summer rates?
Yes, it will.
Which is why Travis said
Well,
most towns
minimum.
don't do that
this,
because they have to prove that income.
I think that was part of the snowbird discussion from the last council as well.
the what,
Snowbird rate when it was shutting off water and sewer, people
Yeah.
running out of town. I think
Yeah,
that was something
snowbirds
similar.
can't happen anymore
Well,
because,
it's never an ordinance, I don't believe, but I think.
they just
part of
kind
that was
of, they just
because
kind of did it.
It does get funky with your SRF stuff.
Mhm.
Well, but still at $50 or whatever the new minimum's gonna be, that's still lower than the water rate would
Be worth a call to Brendan on this too. I can converse with him too on it and see that he was kind of spearheading ideas of this for a while too, so.
so there's going to come a time that we're going to have a conversation about minimum SRFs, right? And so that time is coming. And so then we need to take a look at, like Linda said, if that still may be, we got to look at that and see how that's going to impact that so we can be very transparent about. So these guys know how to make an educated decision, Ryan, I guess is where I'm coming from. Because we need to make sure that we maintain those measures so we stay eligible for grants and loans. But we also need to meet the requirements of our upcoming Minnehaha water study and their demands that are coming down the pipe because they're going to be doing some expansions that will affect our water supply. Do you have any thoughts on this at all?
I was just gonna say, it looks like that summer rate is only directed towards your sanitary sewer, correct?
Correct.
Those ARPA funds, the water main project, SRF funding would be a direct surcharge to your water bill.
So they're separate.
They should be separated.
So we're okay
There
there.
would be a surcharge on there, so you should be okay there.
Thank you.
Now, if we started doing improvements to the wastewater system and need a surcharge on there, it would get a little.
Okay.
I mean, we're looking at doing both.
Yeah, we are, I mean, from an infrastructure standpoint, we have some big projects coming up. Okay, so,
be. Should I call the state?
Yes.
And ask them how that works with other cities?
yes,
Like Monty Kramer or someone that I dealt with in the past?
yes, we need some more information so we can make an educated decision. Because when you're messing with people's utility rates, we want to make sure that we're doing the right thing for the right reasons. And that everybody understands it. Any other questions about this? So do we need a motion to table on this because Linda's going to do research, or is it just inherent that she's going to do research and no action will be taken?
Is there any action requested?
At work, she's going to do research with the state to find out what other cities do.
Do your research.
Yeah, why don't you come back to us next month? Thank you, no action taken. School board letter. If you attended the last P and Z meeting, you were aware that the school board,
Interrupt you, Deb. There's
Yep.
add late fees after that too. Did that need to be addressed?
oh, sorry, thank you. Oh, yes.
I guess I thought it was time to add the late fees back on. We've gotten.
Just a little bit of history while we were cleaning up the utility bills. We forewent all late fees until things were cleaned up. Now that things are cleaned up and everybody is copacetic, that Linda's suggesting that we go ahead and add the late fees back on, since that, taking the late fees off was kind of an administrative decision. I think it still falls within administrative purview to put them back in place because they've always been in place. Okay,
Right.
there we go. Are you guys good with that? Is there any reason why we wouldn't want to do that? Okay, there we go. Late fees are back in play. Okay, now on to the P and Z meeting that we had. There was a situation where the school board felt compelled to write a statement to the Planning and Zoning Commission as well as the City Council regarding their thoughts about Grant Park and Phillips Crossing. We had a very good discussion that clarified obvious questions that the school board had. But at the end of that discussion, I had requested that they rescind the statement, and Superintendent Bob Siddick said that they would consider it with a formal request. So I guess I'm putting it to the council to see if you want to make a formal request to have them rescind this letter since it is a public record, or if you want to let it be. It's up to you guys.
No, I think we should have this rescinded publicly because it was sent out publicly. Ill-informed as it was. So you need a motion?
I need more discussion. I appreciate your opinion. Does anybody else have any thoughts?
I don't know that making a formal request to rescind the letter is a really good way to build a relationship with the school. I think you constantly have open communication with them, keep the doors open both ends, talk and move forward. Rescinding a letter is not going to do anything productive, in my opinion.
Another opinion. Anybody else have any thoughts on that?
Well, I think that, I agree you should have open communication, but probably before he sent that letter, he probably should have come to city.
Well, I don't disagree with that at all, absolutely. Yeah, I'm not excited that they sent it, definitely not saying that's wrong.
Were they on the same page at the end of last meeting?
What's that?
Was the school board on the same page at the end of last meeting?
I don't know.
It'd be a question for them, but they had my grasp, they had a better understanding of the inner workings of the entire situation.
It was clear that they were misinformed, so one way to look at it is that the school, I don't know what was involved in the conversation that led to that letter.
They reacted on the information they had.
Which was a single statement.
They didn't have a lot of information from what I understood.
In Bob's words, he said, I heard that the building permits were ended and that's what we based this on.
Yeah, and I'm not speaking on behalf of the school board either, but that's the vibe that I got. I know every member of the school board, I would be more than happy to see and explain and talk to them about their position to make sure that they're on the same understanding. But as far as a letter to rescind the statement, it doesn't seem correct.
This was a public record right away.
Yeah, it's public record. Because they voted on it as a board. They took action in a public meeting and voted to make this statement publicly. And then we discussed it publicly at the P&Z. So to me, and then this is solely my opinion, to put a bow on this is to, at least all us come into agreement that this was a misinformed statement because they didn't have all the information. So that way we can be clear publicly and as formally as this letter that we will now communicate rather than making statements that are ill-informed and ill-advised.
Everyone makes mistakes. I don't think it's terrible to ask for it.
I mean, they can say no.
Yeah, I mean.
Oh, yeah.
They don't have to do it. It's just a question of whether or not you want to ask them to do it.
Is this open communication?
Of course.
So is he keeping an open line of communication when he demands a formal request?
Bob keeping them?
Correct.
I think he did, I think he
He
just
was
said.
asked to rescind it, I'm understanding at the end of the P and Z committee, and his response was, I will consider that upon formal request, right?
Correct.
So he's kind of asking for one.
So, but is he keeping an open line of communication by making you guys create a formal request through going through order of the committee?
I think as much communication needs to happen after that, really. I mean, if we want to send them a formal request to do that, I think that was the next step. And how I feel, I guess, is that was the next step in that process, if that's what you want. I don't know if there's much communication that needs to happen between.
Well, there was
Motion.
zero in communication when this letter was crafted.
There's
Zero.
emotions on both sides being presented here. and
Yep,
it's-
there are.
It's gotta be done without emotion.
Mhm.
You know, half this letter is emotional. And our response needs to be non-emotional. And since this is public record, we should have a rescindication from, because of that, you know? I don't know the right words. But, I mean, it's,
John, do you have any thoughts on this?
What affects one person in a situation like drainage affects more than just one property owner. It affects all the downstream people. And the emotions are high. And they shouldn't be, but they are. So I think when you look at the overflow, the stormwater, the runoff, whatever you call it, you know, it starts at point A and it ends ultimately in the Big Sioux River. So, you know, I take the view that what affects an upstream homeowner also affects a whole bunch of downstream homeowners. Communication is what is lacking in this whole relationship. You know, everybody has phones and they pick up phones, and ask questions and confirm things, and that would probably be the best way to do that. But I would never pretend to, you know, tell the city council how to handle, you know, an intergovernmental issue like this. I think you need to decide what you want to do and then do it, no matter what the decision is.
Deb, the takeaway I had, because I was there when Bob said, if we receive an official request, we may issue a retraction or rescind.
He said if we get a formal request,
And
we'll
he was
consider it.
still quite, he had a stiff backbone is what my grandma would say.
Yeah.
At the time. For me, I can understand why you want him to rescind, why you want a retraction, because there's so much misinformation in this letter. And I know you love giving us information, and a retraction would do that. But I also have to question at what expense. Like, I think Travis is saying, is it going to drive a bigger wedge between the city and the school? And I'm sorry, that's my words, Travis, but I think that was your intent. Or is it going to help heal it because you're going to feel better about this? So for me, I just don't want this to come down to who's the bigger person. You know, who's going to have the stiffer backbone. As I said at the time, we love our city, we love our school, we want what's best for our community, and I think it's really unfortunate to have no communication by the developer with the school, which is what prompted some of this. Some of the misinformation in here came from, in my opinion, that same venue. But maybe rather than, I think we've got a third option. Okay, so in the third option, could you guys, because it's not me, I'm not on the council, as I said, I don't have a dog in that fight. Could you kind of take the high road and instead of asking for them to rescind, instead put it in the context of, we've reviewed the letter, there was misinformation in that letter, it's been discussed, and we want to move on. Therefore, we're not formally requesting that you rescind, although, you know, it would be appreciated because it's incorrect, it's wrong.
Well, this is an opinion piece to me. This is their opinion.
And that whole bit about,
Well,
we want a new school, yes, we do want the expansion. But the reason we need the expansion is because we want our city to expand.
we've
And-
experienced those opinionated views before, and we didn't do anything if you think about it.
But for.
Because a newspaper wrote an opinion article that they put off as factual.
Yeah.
And technically, this is in the same category as that. And we
Is it?
never responded to that.
Is it? Is the media in the same category as the school board?
Well, I could probably go through here and find quite a few things that aren't accurate. I mean,
I just want to know the last time the city council passed a judgment piece on any decisions the school made. When has that ever happened?
I think there's nothing wrong with asking for it. They don't have to give it to us.
It's true, that's
Uh,
absolutely
And if they
true.
don't, we move on. But I don't think there's anything wrong with asking.
And to Deb's point, I think that, I'm sorry, go ahead.
or they could rewrite this letter with the correct facts.
And republish.
Sure.
Because to me, there's one thing in here misleading, and I'm sure there's a number of people in this room that are smarter than I am about this, and you'll be more than welcome to correct me. But when they start talking about the tax levy and the tax income coming out of the development, isn't it going to be a period of years before we see the full levy
It's a
come out of
lengthy
that
process.
development? So for a number of that period of years, we, the existing taxpayers, are gonna support the services for the people in that development until they get up to that levy. And then, and again, grandma must be on my mind, carry their own water.
Yeah.
Lack of a pun, but sorry, guys.
To Deb's point, we could also not necessarily ask for a rescission, but as much as acknowledge that this letter was written from a point of being uninformed, ill-timed,
Well,
if you
like
will.
John said, high emotion.
And that the goal, and that we both acknowledge that the goal is to have open communication and not going
Important
forward,
communication.
write these kind of letters.
It's an angry letter.
And
That's my opinion. It's an angry communication.
so there's a way that we can approach this to A, take the high road, B, not demand rescission, try to still breed unity, but the one concern that I have, and if you don't share it, it's okay, is the fact that this is a public record statement and there's no response to it. So then
Which makes it all true. And that's one thing you have to consider when you say, you know,
So we
we
have-
don't want to do anything.
we have the choice to either write a response letter and do nothing, not write a response letter and do nothing, write a response letter and ask for something. Those are the choices I see right now.
Well, the only thing I would want is them to recraft that letter with the accurate information. And in all actuality, I think they owe the city council and all city employees a huge apology on this.
It's not the dynamic we want to have at the school, that's for sure.
Well, I'm sure not, but
Deb, I guess in the sense that I'm a little bit outside of this, and I've been in these rooms a lot. I do have a dog in the fight, and that we're representing our client, and we're kind of the
yeah, you do.
grist of what's going on between these two entities. My analogy earlier, passing balls back and forth, is if we are on a team to accomplish what we talked about doing, which is to expand the city and get this development done, which results in the school being built.
The school's getting built no matter what.
In which I'm happy to be corrected on anything. But in the sense that we can be a coach to move our team forward to do that and to create a team to do that. I just want to suggest that a statement of doing that, of bringing us together instead of relitigating the past, which in my experience doesn't move the ball forward very often, maybe help. And I hope you've gotten that certainly from us, and our regret for that communication and the timings we expressed, that our client wants this to be done and wants the city to benefit from it. Always their intention. Certainly missteps, mistakes can be made and may have been made, but let's keep going forward.
Well, then maybe your client can encourage them to fix this then.
We have communicated with them about the issue that was addressed in that, and that's what we take care of. We're happy to continue to do that. I would be happy to be the peacemaker, because without that happening, we don't get anywhere. And so, and that's the only reason I spoke up, and maybe just find it inappropriate that's why we're switching.
So I'm gonna say I haven't read the letter, but based on the feedback that everybody's kind of giving here, how do you move forward with that as your last taste of him in your mouth? Like how did they become peaceful and accept it? He's not willing to, even just upon the request, say, yes, I'm sorry, my words were out of anger. How do these guys work?
They could have
forward
said
with
at the P and Z meeting.
Correct. I apologize.
Yeah, we
I didn't
overspoke.
know, I overspoke. If he's not willing to do that and he demands formal action, how do they move forward without that?
If the intent of the letter was to move this process forward, which is, again, what the stated goal is, safe homes, good homes to build the city. That was their intent. They made a mistake in how they did it. Okay, but the intent was that we want to move this process forward and we want to get the homes built.
No, their intent was that we approach it a different way than stopping building permits. They said, once again, we ask you find some other way to resolve this issue with the developer other than denying building permits.
That was their
Right,
final
so their
sentence.
intent was to get building permits issued. Again, as long as we can continue to move forward towards getting safe and productive houses built. So, I'm not their attorney. Again, I'm
No, I
trying to be a
understand that, and
peacemaker.
I'm just trying
And
to
we
say,
will be happy to carry that water.
Yeah.
I will be happy to do that. We'll have a conversation with their attorneys.
if there's a way to do it without, they asked for an apology essentially and to have their position validated, and his response was, send me a formal request and we'll take action in the school board.
Okay.
That was his
okay.
reaction to we made.
I'm extending my neck further than I probably should, but I will be happy to take and suggest maybe we can make a joint statement that this was ill-timed and this is how the city and the school board can move forward together.
I'd be happy with that.
You mean a joint statement between the developer and the school to the city?
The city, the school, and the developer. So I'll say it together. This is what we want to do. We're doing this
We're on the
together.
same side, right? It's forward.
It felt that way.
momentum, right?
Yeah.
So.
I mean, I think separate statements is moving us backwards, sideways, around in circles. If we can say one statement, and it'll be carefully crafted, trust me, I'm sure there'll be a lot of time spent on that, but I think that moves us forward. So I again, I'm sticking my neck out to do that. I don't have authorization from my client, but I will advocate with the school and with my client to do that. If you will at least wait and maybe listen to that option at the next city council meeting.
You guys, do you want to wait and see what the developer and the school come up with as a response to this letter?
I think it would be, I guess I would suggest it would be a joint response with all of you.
I like the
If you
idea.
want somebody to be on.
Not just the developer and the school, but the city as well.
The city had nothing to do with this letter. We received the letter.
I understand, but it would give your voice a way to address the letter. And it would give buy-in to that address from the school and the developer. And it would be a unifying voice going forward to say, this may have been wrong, the information may have been wrong, these are the facts, as all three entities agree on.
I think
You know,
that voice would be redundant, because I think those things have been said at the P and Z meeting. And
On the
I
city
don't-
side,
I don't know that having a meeting of the developer, the city, the school is going to be the answer. That's my personal opinion, and that's based on having been present at that meeting, sitting in the seat that you're in
Well,
now.
I think it would take some level heads from the boards to craft something that everybody could agree with. It's not an easy task.
Council, any other thoughts on this? So we have 4 options now. Do nothing. Ask them, per their request, for them to consider either recrafting, restating, or retracting the letter. I forgot the other options, or having a group letter, I guess. So it would be do nothing.
I like the idea of working together.
What does that look like for you, Brian?
Well, I think there is an apology just on something to say it was a miscommunication, right?
Mm-hmm.
But then it's an agreement for the city and the school to continue to work together. You acknowledge a mistake and move on.
How do we acknowledge that mistake then?
If they get the two,
I think it's gonna be in the letter,
Right.
that, it indicated that the school board took action, that, again, I don't wanna craft it right now, but I will put as a placeholder, it was mistimed or inappropriate or, bad information. And now that information has been corrected, and as the school board, as the city, as the developer, this is our path forward. We've charted it out. We hope to have a successful development here. Baltic.
So what I'm hearing from this discussion is we have a couple of options. So A, we can do nothing, or B, we can request a letter, and that letter can either be done jointly or in response to this one. That's what I'm hearing as the options. Am I getting this right?
My fear, if you go with the combo letter option, the next thing you're going to hear from the school board is, you don't make demands about our property and you don't dictate our letters to us. That's my
again,
But that's guessing.
I guess,
That's
Yeah,
guessing.
I know.
I would suggest that the option I put forward wasn't for you to demand that, but for me to offer that. And to see if I can bring that to you at the next meeting.
It may be the start of the open channels that you guys are looking for to talk to each other.
Yeah, if you
I
just,
think all three of them should come together and.
if you ignore it, where do you go open communications? Is the same thing gonna happen the next time there's a
So
disconnect?
that's a good point, Holly. Do we want to do nothing or do we want to do something? Let's decide that.
You gotta do something.
Something, absolutely.
Okay, so we're going to do something. So what is that something? Do we want a letter? Do we want a statement? What do we want?
I think the three of you needs to get together. and
Okay.
Talk.
Talk.
Yep.
And then does the result of that talk end up with something in writing, or is it just a talk?
As long as the relationship is made sure that it is good, I don't care if there's a letter, I don't care if there's a statement, I don't care if it's going on the news. As long as the relationship between all 3 parties is good, I don't think you need a lot more than that. If that's what it takes is a letter, so be it. But it seems like a lot of time spent on something that doesn't seem to be, to me, it doesn't seem to be something that need to spend a ton of time on right here, making decisions on what route we want to take. I see a lot of these members in the school board in the school all the time, on a daily basis. I work with one of them. So, I mean, I will constantly have the conversations with them to make sure that they're on the same page. I would expect everybody else to make sure everybody else is on the same page.
But if you
Mm-hmm.
talk to them constantly, how did the letter even happen? If you're talking to them constantly.
Never got brought up.
That's my
Because
point.
I know,
That's my point.
I know.
There's
And
no
now that I know it's
communication.
brought up, there's a conversation that can be had, so.
So they made a conscious decision not to talk to you when they talk to you all the time, but they made a conscious decision to put this in writing and send it to all
It
of
would
us.
be that way.
Yeah.
I'm just stating the obvious.
Yeah, I hear what you're saying. I wish. I
And it
would've
was
talked to
voted
you
on. It was
prior.
literally voted on.
Yep, I do wish they would have talked to me prior. A lot of this
Yeah,
could've
we
been
all
avoided.
do. We all do.
Mhm.
And the superintendent has my phone number. So. Okay, guys, if we're choosing not to do something, we want to do something, what does that something look like? Do we want to take Barry on his offer? Or do we want to request something of the city? or of the school, sorry.
I like Barry's option.
Brian likes Barry's option. That's one feedback.
I just have communication, have a conversation all together before we choose what route we want to take. Make sure everybody's on the same page and figure out a way we can all go forward together. I don't know that making a decision on doing the letter right now is the way to do it, but
Well,
I'd like everybody to talk to each other first.
at some point after that conversation, there needs to be a communication to everybody that was sent to
Oh, yeah.
extrapolate what everything is going on here, because we know this letter is incorrect in many ways. I don't know. Bad timing.
I guess I would approach it, you could consider to approach it that anytime a statement is made and there's inconsistencies or fallacies or conjecture, the author should always be given the opportunity to edit those thoughts. If they still stand behind this letter, then let them stand behind the letter. If they don't stand behind the letter, then let them voice what they do stand behind. And I think giving them that opportunity is a great thing.
My approach is we did have communication with the school district. They reached out to us after the flooding and water came through. So they were in open communication. This letter was a result of the city closing down the development after that fact. So we already had the open discussion with the school district.
Definitely. Ryan and I had met with them.
Yep, so there was open discussion. This letter was after the fact that the development was shut down. So it was.
And that was, you're right,
So
that
there
was
was-
after a meeting. We
there-
did sit down and have a meeting and we
So
discussed
there
it
was already
openly.
communication. There was open communication with the school district.
Which was actually prior to the P and Z meeting that Superintendent Siddick attended, and it was upon after the meeting, even though he had met with us and we answered most, if not all of his questions, he still felt compelled to go to the school board and issue this statement. Thank you for that. That was a fact that I forgot about. Thank you, Ryan.
And I guess I'll just say that I think I am representing my client in his stated intention and desire is to support the city and the school districts in everything that he's done. And so in my opinion, to help him do that, bringing those two organizations together and being on the same page and in open communication and with a stated game plan to move forward with this development is in promotion of what his wishes are. So that's why I'm suggesting or offering to be that peacemaker between the organizations.
I have a question, Barry. Did your client know about this letter prior to?
We did not.
No, we did not. We were excited to come and to meet with you at the time, and we were surprised.
I believe that's factual because Barry was my second phone call, or you were, Andy, I think it was. You were my second phone call.
Yeah, we learned of it at the same time.
Mhm. We got the letter, I called the superintendent, and then I called Andy. So what do you guys want to do? You can table it if you want to too. You don't have to decide today. You guys get to do whatever you want.
If we did table it, it would give Barry an opportunity to have a conversation.
Sure. That is correct.
I will be back next month or next meeting.
In 2 weeks.
When does P and Z meet?
2 weeks.
2 weeks.
2 weeks, 1 day.
Perfect. So do we want to table it?
Like motion table.
Perfect. We have a motion to table. Do we have a second? We have a second. Let me get that down. Yes. Travis, Brian, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Okay, Nielsen, more fun stuff. Nielsen has, do you have that picture? Okay,
I have it. The over flat. You have it.
okay, Ryan, you want to play Vanna for us for a second? You want to show them? Yeah, well, if you wanna show them up on the map. go
I
ahead.
wanna do it here.
Okay, so Nielsen, there's 2 lots at the end of the newest development that is Nielsen. So if you go way up to the top on 6th Street, come back down, you're gonna see
15, right?
block 12.
1 and 1A.
You see which one it is? I'm trying to find a street. It would be
6.
south of David.
Yeah, it's right here. It's gotta be 36, 34, 32. It's gotta be one of these 3, right? The highlighter?
2 undeveloped lots at the end of that big drainage ditch.
Okay. So there's 2 lots there, okay, so we generally have the location. And essentially what happened when they were doing the development, Nielsen did the curb and gutter and the infrastructure for those 2 lots. And so what they want to do is recover the cost of that. But because nothing is simple, right?
Right.
Nothing is simple. There was also, those 2 lots were surplus, is that right? Or
I
what
believe
happened?
that's correct.
I believe those 2 lots were surplus, and then there was a bid for those 2 lots. And the bidder, or the winner bidder, or the
Bid
bidder,
was rejected, as I recall.
the bid was rejected. The bid was made, and then the bid was rejected, so as it stands, it's still, the city is still in possession of those lots. So Nielsen is asking us to either let them buy the lots, let them build on it, and if not them, then we need to reimburse them for the infrastructure that they put into those lots. And that amount is approximately $34,000. Did I get that right?
Correct.
Okay, so that's what's going on here, guys. So we have a couple of options here with those 2 lots. Either A, we can go ahead and sell them to Nielsen and let them build on the lots they did the infrastructure. B, we can go ahead and surplus them and sell them to the highest bidder. And then make one of the terms to be reimbursing Nielsen to pay back that $34,000 to make that transaction whole.
Yes.
And, or C, do nothing and just pay them $34,000 and figure out what to do with the land later. I have a question about that from an expansion situation. Do we want to hold on to those 2 lots? Should we ever, because we're sitting in a situation where we have development that are 2 different silos and connectivity is something that people have expressed desire in. Is it worth the city to hang on to those 2 lots to see if we ever expand to the east and that could be a throughway? Or do we want to offload the lots and let people build? Because Lord knows land is in demand and people want to build.
There is a throughway on that road already.
Yep, there is one.
Right here.
But do we want 2? You know, because loops are fun.
The other option that had been talked about, there's been a lot of conversations, I think, even in my tenure, and I wish I recalled all the details and facts on the entire conversations that it had on these, but the other option was does Nielsen have the right to bill us for those if we own them?
Yeah.
I think was the first question. And
Right.
then the other option we thought about doing with those was a park or something like that. I think Parks and Rec had conversations about that. I know I talked to Brendan about that before this current council's here. I don't recall all the information. I asked Brendan about it tonight too, and we couldn't remember all the details that went into it.
Okay.
I was under the understanding that we did not have to pay them that amount. I don't remember where I got that from.
Is it in your notes?
Somewhere buried deep, it very well could be, but I don't think I
I
wrote
find
that
it-
part of the note.
I find it a challenge to think that
But, because I don't
infrastructure
remember,
is a one, I mean,
yeah,
if they did it to make their development whole and did it in good faith, I guess I would be hard pressed to say that, oh, thanks for the infrastructure and, you know.
yeah, and I don't remember, that's the parts I don't remember. I don't remember where that conversation went or what the details behind it were, why the city even ended up with the 2 in the first place. I don't recall.
It was all part of the drainage.
Yeah,
Was it drainage?
you're right. It was part of the Baltic Heights, but that's going back a long time, isn't it?
Yep. So,
Well,
and
thank
then,
God you 2 are here.
and then
Yeah, really,
one of those lots is actually still kind of the drainage way, and there is a storm sewer inlet
Okay,
right on the edge of that property. It'd be the furthest south one.
okay.
So that one would be one I would say is
Actually
not
pretty flat,
feasible
but it's,
to
you can tell
build
it's
on.
pretty.
I would not,
That's
as
why
a
they didn't
developer, would want to put a house
Or
on
would you
there
want, you as a customer would want to put a
as
house on there?
you're the low point of that street, so you have a storm sewer inlet that you'd have to work around for your
Yeah.
driveway inlet.
That's good,
Plus
good
then you
info.
have the back So I don't know what there, there is maybe that one lot, the north lot of that is probably feasible to be built on. But the one thing that I would also say is when they're coming into a development, that is one of the things, you're tying into an existing development. It is, as a developer, it's your cost, kind of, isn't it? Kind of to tie in.
Yeah.
And I know that land isn't there, but if you're, you already had the retention pond on one side that you weren't going to get for land, you had those two lots, which is kind of still part of that drainage way.
Oh, and you know what, you're right, because that
property.
follows the subdivision ordinances that curb and gutter are required within the development.
So did we pay, yeah.
So that makes sense that they have to do it, because that's part of the
It
subdivision
would.
ordinances.
That sounds familiar with some
Yeah.
conversations that I had before too, and I think that's where those lots actually originated from, is because they were unbuildable
Look
lots.
at it, so
I don't
the
ever-
cloud is
They're
lifting.
worthless lots, basically, they're of no use.
I don't
No, I
want to
think
be
you're
called a liar. Sean Nichols and I had a conversation earlier this afternoon about patching him in on a phone call. Can we do that so that he can,
Yeah, see if he's available.
because he's representing
Sure.
the Nielsen's, or
Sure.
Mr. Nielsen. If we could do that, that would be great.
Sure.
Okay, let me,
So when you say they're a garbage lot, does that mean that they would not even have value as a potential park site?
On Parkside, that's what you do with unvaluable lots, that's why all golf courses are built in sloughs, it's not good for anything else. Same theory on park, that was one of the options to do with them, either just let them sit or put a basketball court or something. You can't have too many parks.
hi, Sean, John Hughes and the Baltic City Council.
Hi, Sean.
There's not much.
Hey, everybody.
It's not midnight.
Well, you beat me by 2 hours.
That's
There we
great.
go.
Well, thank you for calling.
Absolutely.
Mayor, do you want to lead this off?
Sure, so hi, I'm Deb McIsaac, I'm Mayor of Baltic, nice to meet you.
Yeah, you too.
We were
Sorry,
just,
I'm in my pajamas right now.
we all wish we were, wish we were
That's
home
why
in
we're
our
not
pajamas.
FaceTiming you, Sean.
Perfect.
So Sean, what we were doing is we were just reviewing this schematic that we had that showed the two lots that were off of 6th Street and your request about what to do with the infrastructure of that. And we were trying to put that together because we were trying to figure out that those two lots weren't built on because of sewer. There was drainage on one of the lots, and then the other one was part of the greenway, or it was basically water offlow. And then when we were talking about the curb and gutter and the infrastructure, Travis Shears, our alderman, said that he had recalled that it was something that he couldn't remember why, that it wouldn't be reimbursed. And then we started talking it through because there is a subdivision ordinance in the city of Baltic that the developer is responsible for curb and gutter within the scope of their development. So having that curb and gutter in front of those two lots would fall within that scope.
Okay.
That's where we're at right now. And then John said, we should probably call Sean.
So I have not been out there. My understanding, and this is just from the engineering figures that Nielsen Construction's engineer had put together, that, I mean, there was some benefit to these two lots, and it would have been outside of the development because the city owns the two lots. And from what I understand, the lots probably don't have much value. I haven't looked at your ordinance, to be honest, and so I wouldn't know if, there is some argument that, the ordinances would say that there would be no reimbursement, but I think the builder's position is that, there was, infrastructure that was developed beyond his development that benefits these lots. So if the city were to, sell them, that, somebody would gain the benefit of that work. And I think these were sold at one point in time for like $4 a few years ago.
Yeah, well, the bid
My
was,
recollection.
the bid was rejected. It turned out to be kind of a joke, Sean, and of course, the concern here is that, the bid price reflected the issues we've been talking about with respect to an existing storm sewer.
Okay.
On one of the lots, and also the history of these lots being viewed as, part of the drainage plan, but, we need to talk and try to resolve this, so it's good that we can have this conversation.
Well, and I think, if the city doesn't have any plans for the lots, ultimately, Nielsen would like to buy them. no, I know you gotta go through like the public sale process and, whether there's a cost recovery by resolution against them or not, I mean, I think I'd still like to try and acquire them. And then obviously the building process and whether we get building permits with drainage and all that, that's an issue for down the road, but.
Well, we should probably review the subdivision ordinances again. And ensure that we're all coming from the right frame of mind. And what we can do, Sean, is we can share those with you so you can review them as well.
Sure.
Are they on the website?
I can email those to you, Sean. I'll
Okay.
do that tomorrow, so you can have those.
Just to make sure we're all looking at it through the same
Sure.
lens.
I mean, does the city have plans for the lots? Or,
Well, we're a little tied up with some other more important things right now, so we haven't really even talked about it.
okay, fair enough.
Does that work for you, for John to get you that document so we can kind of
Yeah,
take a look at
that's
it and make
great.
sure
I
we're all
mean,
coming
obviously,
from?
we want to work with you. I mean,
Of
that
course.
was Kelly's whole goal was just to be collaborative,
Sure.
for sure, so.
No,
That
we love
sounds
that.
really good, Sean, and we've got you on our radar, and so we'll keep this moving.
Okay.
I'll get you those subdivision regs, you can look them over, and then we can, feel free to call me or send me an email, and we'll get a dialogue going.
Okay,
Wonderful.
well, thank you.
Yeah.
I'll hang
Okay.
up so you guys can get.
Have a cup of hot cocoa for all of us as we're sitting here in our marathon meeting. Thank you,
Thank
Sean.
you, Sean, very much. Okay, bye-bye.
Okay, so that one's gonna get no action taken.
And as I say, if they're worried about like the city ever selling it, we could always discuss with them and say, if we'd ever surplus it, we would assess the charges have to be paid back,
Yeah.
The one lot
Yeah.
though, I think the only one out there would be 36, so it'd be like 34 is the only one with a curb stop. I don't think that one with that storm sewer, I've never noticed a curb stop put in it, so I don't
Would you
think they
mind
even.
checking those things,
Yeah,
just so we have
I
all
know
the
there's one curb
information?
stop on the north one, but that's where the storm sewer is. I
Sure.
don't think they plumbed a curb stop. in
So
there.
one would think that would be reasonable if we ever did get to a point of selling it, that whoever bought it would reimburse them for that
The
infrastructure.
developer.
That's a
Or
super
that-
reasonable.
Pay for that.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah,
everybody
that's
else
reasonable,
is.
but if it's theirs, then it's theirs, and that kind of thing, so.
But
Um, but-
why now? So long.
Because they're almost built out, they're
They
almost
have-
done building
they're on
pieces.
their-
It's been a conversation for a couple of years.
Yeah.
I mean, that's been a conversation. since
And
I started.
they were surplus, and like Sean said, it was like a $4 bid, it was,
I think it was more, because
Was it?
I thought Nielsen put 1,000,
maybe
maybe
it
Nielsen
was.
put
It
$1,
might
and
be.
then I think someone put $1,000 on it.
anyway, it was like, well, we're not gonna accept this. That was an
Nice.
interesting futile exercise.
They threw you a quarter.
Yeah, about right.
So the next item is a sidewalk resolution, but we don't have all of the information together for that. So that is going to be no action taken until we have more information. And then we already did the 4th Street plaque because that was part of the public hearing. So now we're on to ice rink.
Thank you.
Oh, you don't want to say ice rink? Come on, ice rinks are so fun.
It's a slippery slope.
They heard another attorney in their pajamas and they're like,
Yeah,
we're going home.
Thank you. Thanks, guys.
That's funny. Ice rink. Okay, so just to get everybody up to speed, I believe last winter, the city, 2 winters ago, the previous administration invested about $9,000, I think it was, in an ice rink and skates, and picked a location up in the Heights Park. And now that's been ongoing for 2 years now. And so because we are approaching winter, we thought it was prudent to have the discussion about ice rinks. So who would like to start?
What discussion are you requesting?
I don't know. Basically, do we want to do it this year? Where do we want to put it? What are the services? Because we're coming in green.
Yep.
There's nobody in City Hall that has any experience
Gotcha.
with this.
I keep forgetting
And so
that.
we don't know the ins and outs of it.
Yep.
How do we want to approach it?
It can't be put in January, February.
Yeah,
It's
You gotta start,
It's typically built early and then
yes,
wait until the weather comes around to, and
And
it
then
can be
once-
filled and open.
right, once the ground freezes, then you gotta start adding water, and this is overnights. you know, the Park and Rec Department in Sioux Falls has a ton of people working overnights just for their ice rinks. So, and you know, in our part of the country, come February,
Are you okay?
The look on Ryan's face is priceless.
That's this one?
No, this one right here.
I'm just speaking from experience.
No, we know.
And it's,
That's
you
what
know,
it
come
costs.
February, you have a warm front come through, everything melts. So, I mean, you're talking about a lot of man hours putting this together.
Travis, do you have any knowledge of the past administration and how much time they put into that?
I couldn't put a number on it.
Did you get any feeling from the staff that it was overwhelming, or that from the citizens that it was underserved, or do you have any
I
feedback?
never had any complaints on, obviously, we had a couple warm winters where you didn't get a ton of use out of it, but I'd never had any complaints about availability, about location, about quality. I never had any complaints about how much time it took to put it up, take it down, maintain it. I heard nothing.
I did get one phone call from Ruth Breen that said, the ice rink is blowing away in the wind and someone probably should go get it. And I said, well, then you should probably call City Hall and not me, because I wasn't elected yet.
I do know they worked on it for 2 days, putting it up.
Mhm.
Yeah, it's a process, setting up all the sections
Yeah.
and.
Went for the setup because it was still nice enough out, we could walk the bike path. So we were aware when it went up. I agree, it needs to go up earlier
What time of the year was it?
so that it was January, we're South Dakotans. Party bunch.
Do we have a Zamboni for it? I mean, how do we maintain it?
I don't think so, not, I guess not that I know of.
Because I remember, I mean, a million years ago when we skated on the river, you know, which I imagine isn't much different than just putting a bunch of water in a bladder,
More
right?
or less.
There was a lot of, you know, uneven and.
Yeah, it
they
depends
said-
on wind and stuff, but I don't know that they had any.
So then every time it
maintenance equipment.
snowed, did they have to go shovel it off and?
I would think so. Yeah,
Okay.
we're,
I
or
think
whatever,
people
but
who
I'm
wanted
just
to
speaking
skate
off assumption though.
Broomed it and shoveled and things. I also know that during that time, our bike path was not being maintained by city employees, it was being maintained by
Right,
a citizen
correct.
who, so that we.
I
could
believe it
walk
was
it.
Joey Broberg, if I recall
You're
correctly.
exactly right.
Yeah, he did a wonderful job.
Yeah.
So what do we do with the box of skates in the next room? How does that work?
Pretty sure Sally
Yeah.
Franchuk spearheaded that.
Bargain Basement did the rentals for you last year.
So we take the skates to Sally and Sally's the one that distributes them and gets them back and all of that
I
fun
believe
stuff?
so.
They rent them through there.
And then the citizens shovel off their own, we set it up, they maintain it, and then we take it down? Is that how that
I think it's
works?
kind of a group effort. I mean, everybody kind of working together to keep it in functioning order and take it down whenever we see
Is that
fit.
what Parks and Rec is for?
I had a conversation with them. I mean,
Ryan, I need your feedback.
Stunned, he's stunned.
Another hat you wear.
Yeah. Did they put a liner in that or?
yes, there was a liner, I believe.
Is this one, I don't know, the ones in town,
I thought
It's
those,
mill heavy plastic. is
Most
what
of
it
So
is.
it must have been destroyed and they threw it away, because I can't, that's the one thing I can't find.
It's similar to what you put on for a silage green
Well, that's
cover.
what I'd probably get to replace it is
well, that's what I
silage tarp.
can't really tear that stuff.
Mhm.
So, but because there isn't, we have the materials, we could surplus it. but-
And then you've got your white plastic bumpers that,
I can make that motion for it.
Did it get a lot of use? Does anybody?
I think it got a fair amount of use. I mean, I think it's worth putting up year after year. I think we invested in it for things for the community at a time where there's not a lot of stuff going on. So I think it got a fair amount of use.
Sally might be able to tell you what they did for rentals, but some
That's
people
actually
own
a
their own-
really good idea though.
own their own skates, so you're not gonna get a true picture, but you'll get something.
That's a good idea.
I think they set it up in the parking lot at Heights.
Yeah, they did.
The year, but I think that
Picnic
required,
area.
yeah, I think that required, yeah, they
North
moved it.
lot.
'Cause the first year, I think they did it in the
Grass
parking lot
lot.
and required too much dirt work to get it perfectly level.
Right.
It looks level, but it's really not.
Mhm.
I think either they're gonna try to move it to an outfield or to by the top parking lot, somewhere where it was more level. I don't know, I couldn't remember what the details of that was.
The best would be by the fire hydrant and by the sand volleyball. because then I have water, because there is no water up
Yeah.
there.
Because
You're
that's
not gonna
another
fail
piece is
it.
that you got, well, you have to bring the truck and
I
then
know
that
it's
takes
not
forever.
the most level, I don't even know, do you fill it half full of water, or what, I mean, or do you? fill it-
Probably.
You layer it.
Yeah,
Fill
yeah,
it
but
to a
then
point,
what's
let
the
it
point
freeze,
that
fill it to
you?
a point, let it freeze.
And then
Yeah.
you put water, food colored in it, so it's like different colors, what it.
You can
Paint
use
it, we can
the,
paint the
Yeah,
poly
yeah.
before we.
Could you like,
There you
could
go.
you like
You can
strip
use
like a
the-
Baltic
you can use a
bulldog
new
in the
skid
ice
loader.
for us? Would that be?
If you
Okay.
wanted to
Oh,
look
maybe
like a
buy the
softball
Zamboni.
tournament, you put your bases in.
you can use that new skid loader and smooth out that sand.
He wants a Zamboni though too.
And, make yourself a nice little pad.
Ryan, why don't you and then take a look at the heights and see what location makes sense?
The best would be, and we looked at it today, would be, but the grading on that would be the west of the sand volleyball, closest to the thing. The thing is if it's the aesthetics of it, if it's water's in there, but on one side it's 4 inches exposed and the other side is 12 inches exposed, say that, is that going to be a lot hurt? Because water will self-level pretty much.
Mhm.
So we don't have to worry about leveling, we just need to make sure it stays within the 15 inches, right?
They did some dirt work the first year to put it up to get it level, so the whole thing sat to a.
The first year when they tried to put it in the parking lot up there by the sand thing, they ended up moving it to the outfield because
Maybe
of
that
all of
was
that. So,
Why don't you take a look at it? And then if you could get prices on what it would take, because we're already $9,000 in, if I recall correctly.
it was something like that, yeah.
And if you can get us a price on what that replacement bladder would look like. And then Lacey, would you mind touching base with Sally Franchuk and getting some feedback of what she experienced managing the ice skates? And first of all, ask her if she'd be interested. And then find out what kind of volume she thought happened. And then if you would be kind enough to call the Greens, because I'm sure they kept a pretty close eye on it because they're across the way and maybe they would have some feedback, because their eyes on that rank sheet, wanted to make sure it wasn't blown away. So that might be a good idea. And then who lives next door to Greens? Hawks. Check with those two and see if they know. I mean, Hawks are very, very busy people. They're probably not as home as much, but if you could check with those two and just see if they had any feedback too. And, what other due diligence would we have to do?
I have one question, what's liability on something like that?
That is a great question. John, would you look into liability on ice rinks so they know what we're up
Is there
against?
signage, with the rink anywhere? I
no,
can't remember if we had any signage for that or not.
amend that, yes, you did.
Thought we
When
did.
it was on the ball field, we did. I don't know about when it was at the picnic spot.
Pretty sure there was a signage, just
Yeah.
liability signage of some sort. We
Not
had
responsible
constructed.
for accidents.
Yeah, let's check into that. That's super important. Great question. Ryan, what else are you thinking?
That sign might still be around.
He doesn't want to work overnight like Ryan suggested.
Well, then if it needs to be moved overnight, then I suggest that Ryan goes and takes the water.
They kept
I'm
it
not
pretty,
listening to you anymore.
they kept it pretty solid
We
update
never did.
before last year's, constructing the ice rink, let everybody know through the Facebook and everything like that. And they let you know when it's open.
Yeah.
Make sure they communicate back and forth a lot. When it was too warm outside, it's starting out, obviously open it, close it, whatever, so.
I think also this is a great opportunity to engage the Park and Recs Committee to see if this is something that they want to have oversight on. That might be a good way to do that. So I'll take that on as an action item. I'll reach out to Parks and Rec and see if this is where they want to start getting involved to help offset our very limited staff. Okay. Any other issues on ice rink? We got action items. I can't wait to hear about holiday decor. Are we getting Christmas trees on Main Street? I mean, what's going on?
We don't celebrate
It's
holidays.
not until after Thanksgiving.
Dang it. Okay, is that what this all flags is?
No, holiday decor is something different, isn't it?
You told me to put holiday decor on here.
Oh, well, I guess I thought that, first of all, it was flags.
That's for the flags.
That's
for
for that.
I know, but I thought holiday Memorial Day flags, so that's where I was thinking.
Oh, that's
But every
the
day's a
holiday.
holiday with our flags, huh? Every day's a
That's the
holiday.
better thing, if we're just talking about flags, let's just talk about flags for holiday. decor.
Well, I guess the other question that I had, because we do have lights down at Murphy's Pond, is that something that we want to look at updating, making it look a little more cohesive? Is there
That
something?
conversation's been had multiple times. Yeah, I think every year, the last 2 years, there were conversations about making that our focal point, because we can't hang stuff off telephone poles, because XL said no. I believe that was the
Is
deal.
that okay?
I believe that was the deal last year. I
Can we
think they
check
did it.
again?
I think they used to do it downtown.
And this is, I'll just go off of Sioux Valley Energy, back in the day, you were able to put breaker boxes on the poles and stuff like that, where Excel, you would pay them, and that, it's an unmetered power, so it's those things, and we had extension cords hanging from the hot wire down the pole, so we could plug in the Christmas lights. But I think, yeah, Excel does not want anything
No,
on their
they
poles.
pretty much didn't want anything to do with it. I think the stuff that hung from the poles is fairly outdated anyways.
I don't even think it's here anymore.
I don't think it is either. I think then we move towards making Murphy's Pond more of a winter wonderland type area, investing more in some lights down there. I think the big thing's power down there, because I don't think that there's one outlet by the gazebo. I don't think there's any on the other side of the pond, was the problem of why that couldn't be expanded. I thought Will was gonna try to do that.
There's power down for the flagpoles, so they
Yeah,
have.
but they're gonna try and tap off there, but I don't think that was gonna be
Enough
enough
power.
to
What about
run
solar
everything.
lights?
How
For,
much sun is there?
I don't know, I'm just throwing it
Well,
out there.
sun, not really good sun though.
I'm just throwing it out there.
If you switched over to LED, he's more power drawn.
I know there's been conversations had with Will Hubers about getting more power down there. I don't know where that ever landed or ended up at, but
So here's the question. Do we want to do anything with Murphy's Pond from a holiday perspective, or do we want to leave it as is?
I would 100% do as much as you can at Murphy's Pond. It's an awesome spot and be cool in my opinion if it was lit up like a Christmas tree.
No,
That's-
because there's trees down
See
there
what I
that
did
you could
there?
actually light up.
That's my personal opinion. That was the opinion
I
of
agree. It's
most of the last council. That was kind of the general direction that we were trying to work towards, was find a way to invest in more lights to make it more of a focal point and kind of your staple as people drive through town. I think it's a cool deal I think it's something to invest in.
It looks nice.
It does. It does.
Justin, you have any feedback on Christmas lights?
after Thanksgiving is my only feedback.
There you go.
You can hang them, you just have to not turn them on.
Yeah.
No.
You hang them when it's warm.
When it's nice.
You hang them when it's
Fine, but
warm,
you can't turn them
right?
on until after Thanksgiving.
But you don't turn them on
Shut
until
off
after
the 6th of
Thanksgiving, but you
January.
hang them when it's warm.
I wanna know what the fine is if you turn them on before Thanksgiving.
You just get your fingers shooken at by Brian, that's what it is.
If it's snowing there, I'll turn it on.
But Brian leaves his Santa on his roof until May, so, you know, he's.
It wasn't on the roof, it was in the ground.
I thought he left his
It was
Christmas lights.
frozen. Snakes wouldn't come out.
He's a redneck man.
He had Santa right next to baby Jesus.
He did,
For a long time.
It was there a long time.
It's a
It's
gift
in
for
the
all of
garbage,
us.
so no more Santa.
Oh, that's sad.
So what are we looking at?
Let's take a look at the price of some lights that we can,
Because do they try to do the gazebo so it is multi-use, so you leave those lights up?
I think the gazebo lights are still up, aren't they?
Yes, they were on
but
last
they look
night.
I'd
like,
say, do they
they
leave it
kind
up
of
for
look like
weddings
somebody
or
emptied all their
any-
light boxes and then they
Yeah,
just put it
that's so.
together and put it out there, so.
Because, yeah, they're still up there now. They were
There are
on
lights
last,
up there, I don't know if they work,
They were
they were on last
You
night.
know what'd be great is if we got some LEDs that you could change the colors on them so you could use them year round,
They're on.
you know?
they're on.
Because
Last
they're
Thursday,
really
posted
easy
it.
to get, and then you can change them, so like St. Patty's Day, make it green, you know, Valentine's Day, make it red, you know, that kind of thing. And so then, you know, 4th of July, it's red, white, and blue, but if we did that, then at least there would be some rhyme or reason, and then you never have to take them down. It's thought.
Well, you get more
Ryan
use
will be
out of
mad
them.
at Thanksgiving.
That's right.
But I know big deal power. I'd converse with Will on
So
that.
let's take a look at the power constraints, let's look at prices. And if you can indulge me, take a look at the trees around there and see how many we would want to put lights on those trees, or if we want to put lights on the trees.
Huge.
You're getting big.
We're gonna have to
I was
figure
saying,
out how to hang them.
that's a lot.
I know,
When Parks and Rec does Falls Park, you can see the equipment that they have.
Oh, yeah, I've seen it.
They'll light up, I think
They
that's
call
like
it light power,
for
they
us
call
too,
it
is how much manpower it would take to do that.
Well, and then maybe that's a call to action where we ask people to come help, and if they help, great, and if not, then we don't do it. Just say, hey, we want to do this, but we're gonna need help, and get some lifts and get some people to help with it.
Have John write up a liability waiver?
Sure.
Yeah. Will you look at liability waivers for Christmas lighting?
I think you should have a blanket one that you can pull out for all occasions.
Of course. Well, let's just look at it, because it'd sure be nice if we could do something nice like that. So we'll see what it is.
That's a unicorn.
You're serious, that's awesome. It looks just like.
Are you done?
Okay.
Are you done?
Oh, we're at the mayor council update.
So the next item is the maintenance update, and what I'm gonna say is you have created a wonderful report, and you should all just refer that. Are you good with that?
Correct.
Okay.
All they need is
All
someone.
right, you guys give me, rope back up, we got, on the other side, we're at item number 11, maintenance update. Ryan has written this beautiful report, I suggest we all just refer to it. If we have any questions, we can let him know. Done with that, are we good? Is there anything pressing we have to know?
The dialers.
Go ahead.
I think for the lift station dialers, we had that paperwork from last month, I supplied it. The most cost effective is the Sensiphone Sentinel with cellular. It is the most cost effective until year 20, and I'm just gonna go off of what we have in there now. It only made it 11 years before it was optional.
Right.
So with new technology and everything changing, I'm gonna say the most cost effective is the way to go, because who knows, in 10 years, it might be obsolete and there might be
True.
It would be us.
So if that's okay, I will get those ordered so we can get the two.
What is the cost, the overall cost again?
16, it'll be $19.95 per unit.
So
So
this
for
is-
two lift stations, it's $4,190.
Okay, so that needs to be approved by the council because of the amount, is that what it is?
Yeah,
Okay.
it was part of my budget, but usually I
Just
get
letting
it.
us know.
Yeah.
All right, anybody got any questions about that or strong opinions otherwise?
No.
Justin? You wanna go? All right,
Is this information for the street safety an action item thing?
It can be.
Street safety, something, or
Yep.
it's on there.
Yep. And so then, all right, so we're good on the dialers. The street safety committee met, and so Ryan was doing some research on potential traffic solutions. And I think that information was on the website. There's some pictures and different things. I think there is an invoice here though, which just to give an idea. In a nutshell, basically, we met with a couple of citizens, and the recording is on the website if they want to refer to it. Is we are looking for safe passage for kids to get to school across Lovely. That's, and the concerns were 6th Street, 5th Street, and 4th Street, and then down by the fire station, were the 4 points that we were talking about. And so some of the creative ideas we had were have like rolling stop signs, flashing lights, where it turns, stop when pedestrians or slow down during school things, to draw their attention. There was a rollout stop sign option, wasn't there, where you can like roll it out physically, but
There's a crosswalks.
crosswalk stop sign. And so that way that would just draw an extra attention that they have to stop the crosswalk. This would just be for before school and after school, or if there's those softball tournaments where you have a lot of kids crossing the street, maybe dog days, that kind of thing, where we know it's gonna be busy. And so we were just looking at this as options because we said we would do it as a follow-up from that committee. So the council, do you have any questions or thoughts?
Larchwood, which I've been driving in and out of for the last 3 days. Every school day at 3 intersections, they roll out homemade stop sign jobbies before and after school. And I'm assuming the street guys do it, and I don't know, Larchwood's not that much bigger than Baltic, I'd say what, double the population maybe, if that. So there is that too.
Do they have crossing guards or anything?
No,
Like
they just have the stop signs and everybody's on their own.
Thank you, Ryan. That was another discussion that we talked about in the committee, is potentially corralling citizens that would be interested in safe passage and asking them to be crossing guards on those intersections for the 30 minutes that are, before school starts, just to make sure the kids get there, and then 30 minutes after school. We figured there might be an app for that, where people can sign up for it like a volunteer thing and then ask if there's a group of people, maybe the PTO would want to partner with us on it or something like that, where we could, you know, get the crossing guard little vests if you wanted to or whatever, and then people, because if there's a person standing in the road, the car's gonna stop. You
And
know,
they're following up on my tongue-in-cheek comment earlier, the question was, what's the liability to the city?
correct,
For having crossing guards,
yeah,
well, we have insurance, if you designate them as volunteers,
okay,
you know,
then we would be
in
covered.
minutes, they'd be covered.
Can I ask a question?
And then,
When does it become the school's responsibility?
I imagine that it's the school's responsibility if they wanted to have that on their property, but because the street is not on their property, I imagine then that would be a volunteer city joint venture. And there was conversation that the school had, and I will openly admit, we've not even talked to the school about this because we were researching options first. And maybe that's something that we should talk to the school about, is whether or not PTO would want to get involved with something like that. Or maybe there's retired people in town that would love to volunteer in that capacity and have, you know, 30 minutes, and then maybe we work something out with Classic Corner that they get a free cup of coffee after they're done volunteering or something like that, were the different ideas that we had.
the one comment, one of the committee members, or one of the people that was at that meeting made, was that the school has definitely said they will not be doing a school crossing program. They
Because
do
of
not
liability reasons.
Yeah.
I think at one point they did have students down there that were crossing cars.
And
Well, they're insured by, I mean, how things work with the municipal liability pool is that all they require is that in the minutes, people be named as volunteers, and then when they are doing things for the city, they're covered by work comp if they're injured, for example. I don't know why that same, I mean, it's probably it's probably the, gosh, what's it called, the South Dakota Public Assurance Lines. But I would think they would have a comparable
Well,
coverage.
it's gotta be, because, you know, when we go on, or they go on band trips, or they're riding the bus, or
It's the
whatever,
same,
I mean, it's the
yeah,
same thing.
Same thing.
Yeah.
It's
You
really
know,
no
if you're a
different.
parent riding along a school function, you know, everybody signs waivers.
Yeah.
You know,
Yes.
so I guess it just warrants a communication with the school too, and see if they want to participate in what capacity, or if they're not interested, and then we can take action from there. So that might be another conversation that we have.
And another thing at that meeting, it was pretty much unanimous that everybody who was present agreed we need to do something about the speeding within our city limits and not just doing school time. So
That's
there I
true.
am plugging it in.
Thank you.
The one thing I would like, approval would be, we have, crossing signs in the shop. I got it from Traffic Solutions, was for them to put in a post, so we can put those up.
Oh,
That's at 1650, so they put 6 posts, so there's 4 crossings across Lovely. This would be putting crossing signs at 5th, Douglas Boulevard, and then down by 4th Street. And then every crossing that's across the highway at that point would have signs up. It's not going to do anything, but they just have the equipment that is a lot easier than for us.
so we have signs.
Yep.
How many do we have?
We have enough to do, I think, 4 crossings, but we only need for 3 right now because we have the blinking
But
one.
don't you have,
Yeah.
yeah, but you gotta go this way and this way,
Yep.
right?
Yeah, so we have enough to do both sides of the road.
Also, we have like 8.
Yeah, I think we have 10 so back there.
Wow, okay,
Or
well,
at least 8, if not 10.
so then, well, how much is it a stick to put in the ground? A post?
Stick.
I know, I bet you like that.
It would be, what, $250?
I'm tired.
$200 for the post. That they're mounting, or their bottom part of it. So
Total cost.
$1650 or $1650 coming out. And then they come out with the post.
Are you guys good with
I think
that?
that one's a no-brainer, because then two or tear, there's just no markings on, you never know if they're there, or
Correct.
they're sitting on top.
Yep. And then there's a quote for painting the whole Lovely Avenue through town, and that was $5,600. But
That's a
gonna-
no-brainer too.
You want the whole thing painted, or do you want us just to do the blocks? We can go buy white crossing paint and
Just do the
I,
process.
I don't think there's any reason to spend $600 on a road that's gonna get more up here very soon anyways. If they already have markings on them, they can just be touched up and.
yeah, they're pretty, actually pretty good. They're not.
You paint twice a year, you paint in the spring, you paint in the fall.
So we'll just roll
Yeah,
it on.
they look good too, yeah.
Yeah.
It's got a pretty good set, just waterborne paint that they're proposing or epoxy.
Right, water, I think, yeah, what they do, the county highways and stuff, so.
So just touch it up then.
Okay.
It's just spray up the glass beads on it and mount it.
Yeah, we'll actually have to, I don't think that before they just painted it, so, well, when Traffic Solutions did it first time, they painted it, and after they used glass beads.
Yeah.
We don't have any glass beads, so we'll have to go to diamond paint, but on Minnesota, I'm not sure.
Yeah.
Paint,
Oh, yeah, diamond gold.
yeah. Purchase
Perfect.
paint through them, if they have it, I know that, and I demand full supply, so,
Of course.
okay?
So are we good with his flag purchase too?
Did Lacey put the quotes in there, Salad House? Okay, she had that, okay. The one thing is, in the past, we always bought, hung for Memorial Day, the new flags, and usually they hopefully make it through the season until the next Memorial. I know Kathy used to repair a lot of them.
Right.
I think you need to purchase because the flags up there are nylons, they're not going to make it through the winter, so
Yeah.
we're gonna have to probably spend money for new ones now and spend more money on them, but they should be of better quality, so they won't get beat up so much.
We had to go to Menards because we had no other flags in
Correct.
City Hall.
Yeah.
So I think investing in some good flags makes a ton of sense.
And hopefully they make it through till May so we can update them.
Does anybody have any issue with this price point?
You know, the proper disposal for them.
We give to Legion.
The
Yeah,
Legion will
Legion's
dispose
got
of them.
their-
Legions.
Cool. Okay, anything else, Ryan?
No, everything's listed, for the budget, we can, you see the points on there for the standpoints of
Yeah.
water, sewer. If anybody ever wants to talk about it, you can, the books are here, but I can explain it.
Okay then.
Yeah, that's about the only other thing is the restricted use site, the dump, or the composting piles and stuff. I think I can't stress it enough for the citizens. If you see someone out there when you're taking your own stuff out there and they're throwing stuff out there, just police it. I mean, it makes it, I mean, every couple days we go out and take stuff out of there that's not supposed to be in it.
Like
The state does, they gave us our, we're in compliance with some violations, but it's nothing that they'll shut it down. The next thing is to put a fence around it and then monitor it, which nobody will like because then we have to pay for someone, or we can only open it when we're available.
Yeah.
So nights and weekends will be gone.
Gone.
So it's a main thing for the citizens, just to police it. I know, Myron Nahava one time policed it and boy, did he get an earful from the person there. And, but it's just because they were dumping stuff that wasn't supposed to be there.
Well,
Right, yeah.
We were absolutely spoiled to have it as good as we do with that compost site.
It's true.
Yeah.
Did you get your question answered?
I did.
Okay, just
And
making
we
sure.
made a phone call to
Right.
her and
You have a couple of 55 gallons around,
Three garages, compost.
empty.
No bags, no
Once in a while.
doors, no siding.
Might have one eventually, but
Well, if you throw a garbage
Grow
can
around
out there,
it.
that might help a little.
Grew out of the
Yeah.
ground.
Are you talking like, plastic, pop cans or?
everything. If someone's got something in the back of their pickup and they bring out their grass clippings, it's all out there.
Well, the other thing I take out there is what I take off my yard.
Yep.
Two by fours, see a lot of two by
Yep,
fours.
and see, we don't want construction product because if there's nails and anything there, it'll end up in tires of anything out there.
Right.
Green treat is not permitted. Any treated lumber is not permitted. That's a violation.
Can we have a sign that kind
We
of?
do have a sign that
Okay.
says branches and
Yeah.
trees only and
Grass.
grass clippings
You gotta
and.
understand.
So that's
people
pretty
don't-
much it.
People don't care.
There was talk about updating that sign at one point too.
They
There was
did,
some liability or something, like, I don't remember the comment, I'll look at it.
there was an updated sign. It was just more basic than what was out there originally. On the original sign, it said no bags or anything like or garbage.
Yeah, and there's people that leave bags out there and it's like, it'd be so easy just to, cut them open and dump them. I mean.
We
take
should
'em
have
out and
Nikki
throw 'em.
police
Oh, I could.
So, no, that was about the only other main thing is,
Well, believe me.
it was getting bad, it's been kind of bad again with people dumping stuff that's not supposed to be out there, so.
And like you said, Travis, it's a fantastic service and that.
And once you don't have it, you'll be
You'll
Because
miss it.
sorry.
You'll miss
Del
it.
Rapids, Colton, the residents pay for those.
Yep, they do.
Yeah.
Thank you, Ryan, for all your work here.
Ryan, do you think people from out of the city use it?
Oh, yes.
Oh,
I've
yeah.
taught them before,
Oh, yeah.
because they have to pay elsewhere.
Well, because there's been people down there and I'm going, I don't know everybody in town, but I don't think I know you.
So, no, there are quite a few, if we catch them, we tell them that they can't use it, it's for the citizens only, so.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's unfortunate. Thank you.
Well, if I see anybody when I'm dumping my leaves and branches,
Post on
I'll
your
say
Facebook
something.
page regularly to remind people how great it is to have.
Not necessarily, but it's not a bad idea. So,
Well, if they don't want to lose it.
That's what I mean, if you just keep them, hey, keep in mind, we found a bunch of garbage that wasn't supposed to be there.
Yeah.
Can you put a reminder in the shopper?
Yeah, we could do
Lacey,
that.
will you mark the shopper for a reminder on that?
Especially fall.
I think they've done it a
Yeah,
couple
especially,
times.
yeah,
Right,
especially a
throughout
couple
the
times.
summer, I would do it every week or something.
Yeah.
Okay, let's talk about that.
Oh, sorry,
Go
last
ahead.
thing, Banner did, prepare a water usage for like, you know, for a 20-year focus, so we'll have to talk about eventually.
Can you
sooner
send
or
that,
later,
can you send that to all of us so we can all look at it?
because we'll have to get our allocations set up for rural water, because our.
And when's the
contract-
deadline for that? February, isn't it?
I think so.
Yeah, I think it's February, so we need to talk about that. So Ryan, if you would send that to everybody so they can review it, and then we can answer questions next month, and then we can get on board with that. And I know you have thoughts on that too, so, okay, cool. Anything else, Ryan?
No,
Thanks for sticking it out with us tonight. It's been a long one.
part of the
He wants to
job.
be the first agenda item next
I
week.
know, yes, yes, it does. Miss Linda, cash basis, is it time?
Real quick, we, talked to the accountant about going cash basis. And, they said we can go 2022 or 2023. I mean, they can make the adjustments for this year. So I think we should do it for this year.
Yeah.
You guys, so she's talking about cash basis. She just researched with the accountants on that. Whatever you guys want to do is fine with me. I'm a huge fan of cash basis. Anyone want to vote on that, or do we have to vote on that, or do we just give her instruction to do it, because it's more administrative?
Probably vote on it.
Okay, to formalize it? Okay,
Sure.
can we get a motion to move to cash basis?
We
For
already,
2022.
yeah, we have a motion to do it already. I'll make a motion to do it for go to cash basis for 2022.
Yeah.
Second.
It's easy.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes, perfect. I don't really have any updates right now, other than everything we've already talked about. So how about that? Any other aldermen have updates they want to share?
The only update that I had was about River Park. There's not really an update. Corps engineer still hasn't responded.
Sure.
Matt told me to get a hold of a National Guard unit. But upon my research, all I'm getting is their recruitment station, so I'm gonna have to do a little more research on that.
Okay.
Because Parker supposedly does community service stuff for their PT.
Well, that'd be nice.
We supply the material, they supply the labor, but we have to go through a paper application process for it. So I gotta get a hold of the base commander or whoever, and go from there. Still working on it, and she's on the phone, not listening this time too. Yeah.
That's all right. She'll catch up. She can watch the
No, no
recording.
big deal.
Okay. Any other updates? Brian, what have you been working on?
Absolutely.
Okay, we have made it.
I'll make a
Oh my
motion
gosh.
to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Ooh.
Second.
All right, Travis, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Come on, Nikki, you know you oppose. You love these meetings. All right,
Travis.
Because I don't work during the day.
all right,
so.
meeting's adjourned, everybody.
Your speed limit signs, did you look at